So even though the Sony XB910Ns are technically meant for bass heads because they do have an above average amount of bass, these are just a solid pair of mid-tier ANC headphones that you really just can't go wrong with. So today we're going to see how the Sony XB910Ns stack up to the Microsoft Surface headphones too. Now, I know this sounds like a very odd matchup, but I've always felt that the Surface headphones 2 were also a great pair of mid-tier ANC headphones that most people just slept on. Now, regarding pricing, both of these headphones retail for $250, putting them squarely into the mid-tier category. However, Sony does like to put their headphones on sale on a regular basis, but nonetheless, if you want to pick either of these two headphones up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch shelf down below. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great, and if you've been watching me for a while, you know I can be very particular, so I'll only set my name on something that I'm really proud of. Now first, let's talk about these cases. Now thankfully, the XB910Ns now come included with a hard shell case, and this is a pretty big deal because their predecessors didn't. Now the Surface headphones also come included with a hard shell case, but this case is pretty big. It's not thick, but it does have a large footprint. So if you plan on traveling or commuting a lot with your headphones, then you might want to go with the XB910N. But now let's talk about the headphones themselves. Regarding build quality, both of these headphones are mostly made out of plastic, and they both have really good feeling leatherette. The only major difference to point out here is that the Surface headphones have slightly padded silicone underneath their headband, whereas the XB910Ns just have leatherette. But nonetheless, both of these headphones have a really good build quality for mid-tier ANC headphones. They both feel really solid in your hands, and they both have zero cracking or squeaking whenever you flex them. Build quality is not an issue on these headphones. However, when it comes to their designs, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of how the XB910Ns look. Specifically, I just don't like their new bulbous headband, whereas the Surface headphones have a much more low-profile headband, just making them look sleeker. However, the Surface headphones do have a rather peculiar design to them. I like how they look, but some of the people, not so much. But when it comes to their overall fit and comfort, the XB910Ns are the winners here. Now, both of these headphones are big head approved, shirts down below. But the XB910Ns have less clamping force. So if you have a bigger head, or if you like wearing hats, or if you just want a looser fit, then you might want to go with the Sonys. But also, there's their padding. The Surface headphones have very little padding underneath their headband. So this headband does like to create a hotspot on the top of your head at around the 1 hour mark. Whereas the Sonys don't create a hotspot because this headband has a lot more padding to it. But then, there's also their weight. The XB910Ns weigh in at 252 grams, whereas the Surface headphones weigh in at 293 grams. So in general, the XB910Ns are just less noticeable when they're on your head. They're easier to forget that you have on if you're sitting at your desk working or watching a movie in bed, and they're less noticeable on your head when you're walking around with them on. And finally, there are the ear pads. Now, both of these headphones have very spacious ear pads, and they should be able to fit most ears just fine, even if you have really large ears. However, since the ear pads on the Surface headphones have a lot more surface area coming in contact with your skin, these ear pads do like to heat up fairly quickly if you're walking around with these headphones on. Whereas the earpads on the XB910N do stay cooler for a little longer. But like I've mentioned in past videos, the earpads on the XB910Ns do heat up a little faster than the earpads found on the 1000 XM4s. Now, neither of these two headphones have an overheating problem, but you might want to take that into account. But nonetheless, like I said, the Sony XB910Ns are the overall more comfortable headphones here. But now let's talk about tech specs. Regarding battery life, this is an area where the Surface headphones just really struggle. You'll be lucky to get 20 hours of playback time with the active noise cancellation turned on. Whereas with the Sonys, they have an advertised battery life of 30 hours with the active noise cancellation turned on, and if you were to use them with the active noise cancellation turned off, they can go for as long as 50 hours. Now, regarding connectivity, both of these headphones can be connected to two devices at the same time, so you can easily hot swap from one device to another, regardless of operating system, which is great for power users. However, with the Sonys, if you do decide to use this feature, you're going to have to sacrifice LDAC. Now, if you're an iPhone user, you should definitely turn this feature on, because iPhones top out at AAC anyways. LDAC really only applies to Android users. However, when it comes to performance, both of these headphones have zero latency across the board when watching movies or videos on your phone, whether you're using an iPhone or an Android device. And when it comes to audio codecs, the Surface headphones only have support for SBC and aptX. Oddly enough, there's no AAC. So if you're an iPhone user, you're going to be using SBC. Whereas with the Sonys, you've got support for SBC, AAC, and Sony's own LDAC. But if you want to, you can always just use a wired connection with both of these headphones because they both still have 3.5mm audio jacks and they both still come included with audio cables. The only thing to keep in mind here is that you can't use these USB-C ports as a wired connection, and with the Surface headphones, you can use them while they're charging, whereas with the Sonys you can't, but you can always use both of these headphones passively if you want to. But now let's talk about listening to music with these headphones. Now, both of these headphones have a fully customizable EQ, so you can make them sound however you want. But I do feel the Surface 2s are the worst sounding headphones here. Now, with their stock EQ, the Surface 2s sound decent and they should be able to please your average user. They have pronounced vocals and they also have a decent amount of bass to them. And the bass on these headphones is going to rattle your head a decent amount. But the problem with these headphones is that if you listen to a lot of bass-heavy music, or if you have the volume set too high, then their bass will occasionally bottom out. And if you were to go into these headphones app and raise the lows and mid-lows, then they're going to bottom out even more frequently. So personally, I just recommend that you use these headphones with their stock EQ, or if you're going to adjust their EQ, then I wouldn't raise the lows or mid-lows too much. But nonetheless, these headphones are better suited for someone who likes a more bass-heavy EQ. But then there are the XB910Ns, which overall sound better than the Surface headphones. The XB910Ns have a slightly better instrument separation and a slightly wider soundstage. So if you're someone that's looking for a more neutral or vocals-focused EQ, then you might want to go with these. However, the XB910N's claim to fame is their bass. The XB910Ns have way more bass than your average pair of headphones. These things are going to rattle your head a lot more than the Surface headphones, which is just a lot of sheer dumb fun, and it really does add an extra level of immersiveness when you're watching movies with these headphones. But if you don't want to use this feature, you don't have to, but it's there if you want it. However, I do feel that it's important to note that the XB910Ns do have a little less head-rattling bass than their predecessors, the XB900N. So if you're someone that's really after that bass, then you might want to go with those. But nonetheless, the XB910Ns do sound better than the Surface headphones too. They sound more open, their bass never bottoms out no matter what, and they have that head-rattling bass if you want it. Now, when it comes to controlling your media, this could actually be a deciding factor for some people. Now, the Sonys are using a touchpad, and this touchpad is very good. It's very accurate, and it's easy to use. However, the Surface headphones have a hybrid setup. You've got these big physical dials to control your music, and since these touchpads are strictly tap-based, they're even easier to use than the swipe-based touchpads on the Sonys. And then there's also the fact that both ear cups have a touchpad, which could be attractive if you're a lefty. And then there's also the fact that the Surface headphones have wear sensors, whereas the Sonys don't. So the Surface headphones are going to automatically play and pause your music if you put these headphones off or take them off. Now personally, I don't really care for wear sensors, and that's a feature that I usually just turn off on all of my headphones, but I'm just putting this out for the person that just needs to have all of the features. However, if you're like me, just know that you actually can't turn off the wear sensors on these headphones. So you're stuck with that feature even if you don't want it. But now let's talk about the active noise cancellation on these headphones. Now, for the most part, I gotta say that both of these headphones block out an adequate amount of noise for a pair of mid-tier ANC headphones. However, the Sony XB910Ns do manage to edge out the Surface headphones here in almost every aspect. But so that you can see for yourself, we're going to jump into an ANC test. Now, for starters, I included the AirPod Max in this ANC test because they currently block out the most amount of noise because they brutally go after constant low frequency sounds. However, the AirPod Max are not my favorite headphones when it comes to active noise cancellation because they have a lot of cabin pressure. That's why I still prefer both the Bose NC700s and Sony 1000XM4s. But nonetheless, you can definitely see that the XB910Ns are blocking out a touch more low frequency sound than the Surface headphones. However, I do gotta point out that the XB910Ns managed to block out a little more noise than the Surface headphones with a little less cabin pressure. Now, the cabin pressure on the Surface headphones is really only noticeable when you're not playing music, and it's nowhere near as noticeable as the cabin pressure found on the Bose QC45. But overall, I am gonna have to say that the XB910Ns do manage to edge out a win here, because they block out a touch more noise with less cabin pressure. And when it comes to the ambient modes on these headphones, the XB910Ns are the clear winners here as well. The ambient mode on the Sonys just sounds a lot more natural, whereas the ambient mode on the Surface headphones doesn't do the best job of picking up people's voices. This ambient mode sounds a little more shallow by comparison. But also, the microphone array on the Sonys does a much better job of blocking out wind noise when walking outdoors. Whereas the Surface headphones do pick up a considerable amount of wind noise, which does interfere with music if you're walking outdoors. And also, the XB910Ns have quick attention, where if you fully cover their touchpad, they're going to lower the volume of your music and pump in all of the ambient sound around you, so that you can talk to someone without having to take your headphones off, like this. And then when you let go, the headphones will go back to normal again. Now personally, I feel quick attention should be locked after you have the touchpad covered for 2 seconds or so. So that way you don't have to keep the touchpad covered the whole time you're talking to someone. But hey, what do I know? But nonetheless, I do feel that quick attention is a very useful feature, especially for my constant commuters and frequent flyers. But finally, here's the microphone test. Now, I think both of these headphones have good sounding microphones for phone calls. But I do feel the XB910N sound a little better. They don't sound as shallow, and they do have a little bit more amplification on my voice. But also, the XB910Ns try to block out noise pollution. Right now, when it comes to blocking out this road noise, the XB910Ns aren't doing the best job because they are interfering with my voice, but at least it's something. But at least the Sony XB910Ns are doing something, because with the Surface headphones, they really don't block out all that much noise pollution, and my voice sounds even more shallow. Now, when it comes to blocking out chatter, the Surface headphones don't sound too bad, but you can definitely still hear a noticeable amount of chatter in the background. Whereas the XB910Ns are doing a better job of blocking out this chatter. So overall, I say that both of these headphones have good sounding microphones for phone calls, but I do gotta say that the XB910Ns have the better sounding microphone here, and they also do a better job of dealing with noise pollution. So with all that being said, both of these headphones are good mid-tier ANC headphones to consider. However, the XB910Ns are the better option here because they just constantly manage to edge out ahead of the Surface headphones in basically every category. For starters, the XB910Ns perform better than the Surface headphones too, sound quality wise, because their bass never bottoms out. But they also sound more open and they have better instrument separation. And again, they have that extra bass feature if you want it. But also, the XB910Ns have a much longer battery life, they have a much better sounding microphone, they have a slightly better active noise cancellation, and they also fit much better as well. I just really don't like their super round headband. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know, I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something that I'm really proud of.